So I've been trying to write this video for a long time and I just can't really come to a solid conclusion. I'm giving you full warning that there is no big answer to the following question at the end of this video, but regardless, today we will be asking this. What happened to Lil Yachty? Alright, so I know he's one of the poster boys for quote-unquote mumble rap, so a lot of the old school hip-hop heads are gonna comment saying that Yachty was never good to begin with, which is definitely not my opinion on the matter. This is something that I haven't really discussed much on the channel before, but when I first heard about Yachty, I was practically a super fan for that whole year. Yachty's big breakout project was his March of 2016 mixtape Lil Boat, and this may be surprising to hear, but this is one of my favorite hip-hop projects of the 2010s. A couple friends told me to check it out days after it dropped because they had been on the Yachty hype train for a while. I had heard about him before, specifically him modeling for Kanye and looking like he was about to fall asleep at MSG, but I hadn't listened to any of his music yet. I can't even begin to describe how I felt during my first listen of Lil Boat. People are always asking that question of, oh, if you could go back and listen to an album for the first time again, what would it be? And I'm not saying Lil Boat would be my answer, but it would probably be pretty high on my list. This mixtape was strange. It's this young kid with these vibrant red braids, switching back and forth between rapping and singing because he's doing this conceptual thing and playing two different characters. His lyrics are weird and they don't make sense half the time, but my god, this was the most infectious project I had heard in a long time. The intro track brings us into the world of Lil Boat. It gives us some background and explains the conceptual aspect of the album, which was a breath of fresh air immediately because who is weird enough to not only do this kind of thing, but to also blatantly explain it on the opening song.
Today I'm gonna tell you a little story about my two nephews, Lil Yachty and Lil Boat.
The second track, Wanna Be Us, featuring Perry, is flexing from start to finish, but it was a type of flexing that I wasn't used to. It sounded so over the top, but at the same time, they were barely even bragging about anything in the first place. This was a good indicator for the general mood of the project. The concept of a rapper that wants to bring the feeling of flexing while rapping about nonsense was super fun to me.
For my laces, I got the ice on my wrist, whipping the work like a Prius.
Then I heard Minnesota and I absolutely lost it. I need you guys to remember that 2016 was a long time ago in terms of how much the rap landscape has changed. Sure, now we have Playboi Carti and his delivery and stuff like 645 AR is blowing up, but 4 years ago, the way that Yachty was singing on Minnesota was unusual to say the least. This track was by far one of my favorite things that I heard that year.
Call like Minnesota, call like Minnesota, call like Minnesota.
Then as we go through the track list, we get a few of the very different styles that Yachty has to offer. Not My Bro was this atmospheric track of Yachty basically just slowly ranting for a few minutes.
With the new sound, all these people here trying to cope. Whoa.
Good Day was upbeat, and it's a perfect example of how infectious Yachty's energy was.
So, park my car in the wrong spot, but it still ain't get towed.
Up next too was a chaotic banger, and I've always wanted to talk about how these are some of my favorite lines ever, and I don't really know why.
I'm a hot box in a drop top, not a coupe, look like a crock pot, old school cubes.
Lil Boat is filled with some of the most carefree songs that I've ever heard, but there's also some very real sadness in there too, and I think that acts as a great foil to the carefree themes of the previous tracks. It's like that character that you see in movies who is so rebellious and anti-establishment, and you assume that they don't have any real emotions. You're having a great time with them, and then all of a sudden, life kicks in and you realize that that person might be hurting more than anyone. For the most part, the latter half of the project is where Yachty gets more emotional, but real quick, I need to mention One Night and how it was another one of my absolute favorite songs of 2016.
No, I just want you for the night.
I completely understand if you don't like Yachty's stuff. It often sounds lazy and unenthusiastic, but if it does click with you in the right way, it's indescribable. Some of the melodies that Yachty came up with on this mixtape are perfect to me. It's the kind of thing that you didn't know that you needed until you heard it. Maybe it's because everyone else in rap was always always clearly trying so hard and needing to be seen as cool by everyone, and then all of a sudden we have this kid that is doing what nobody in the mainstream was doing. He sounds pretty amateur, but there's something so appealing about it too. Not only was he working in his own space in the industry, but I think that space was relatable for young people everywhere. His music was all about adolescence, and his style was all about individuality. If I want to sound super pretentious and like I'm trying too hard, Lil Boat felt like new ground to me. Like some postmodern, experimental, absurdist thing where this kid was going against the norm, coming up with unique songs and ideas, and he was being himself. It really worked for me, his energy was compelling, and from that moment forward, I was a big fan of Lil Yachty. 2016 continued to be a huge year for Yachty as he was featured on more than a few hit records. The song Broccoli with Drum was an absolute revelation. It was one of the most entertaining pop rap tracks I heard in years, and it showed that Yachty had the potential to be an incredible feature rapper. So much fun, that instrumental and hook were irresistible, and now that I'm talking about it, I'm gonna have it stuck in my head for weeks.
I might run out the Bahamas and then keep like 10 phones, then I'm really never home.
Then the fact that Yachty got featured on Chance the Rapper's coloring book on the song Mixtape was a big deal. This gave him infinitely more exposure than he already had. It gave Yachty another chance to prove himself on the big stage, which he did, and the hype train kept going.
Time and time again, they told me no, they told me.
Then the song I Spy with Kyle happened. I'm not gonna pretend like I enjoyed it, but hey, it was still pretty big.
6 months later, I had stamped and now I'm in the game. Went from fake change to...
And so during 2016, we had Yachty featured on 3 huge songs, 2 of them being very good and 1 of them being I Spy by Kyle, and he also dropped the mixtape Summer Songs 2 during this time, which was fine, but whatever, it kept his momentum going. But this is the part of the video where I start asking questions. Since that magical year of 2016, my interest in Lil Yachty has absolutely died. Completely. He has dropped 3 studio albums over these few years, and I don't think that I could name more than a song or 2 on any of them. Truth be told, I completely forgot that this one even existed. And over these few years, I've been confused by what happened. We could go back and forth making conspiracy theories all day long, but I think in general, it comes down to 2 possible options. 1, Lil Boat was a fluke, and 2, Yachty somehow lost his spark. So talking about option number 1 first, this is the idea that there was a perfect storm for Lil Yachty and his rise to fame. He had been making connections in the industry, he had a few mixtapes out already, but right at the moment where it mattered the most, he made all of his best material all at once. Lil Boat was a fresh, exciting project that he dropped at the right time, but in my opinion, it is the only good project he's ever made. And I'd go as far as to say that this mixtape is better than good, it's great, but literally everything since then has been trash. All of these albums don't even come close in comparison to his debut commercial mixtape. And you might be wondering, okay, if Lil Boat was the only time that he was ever good, how did he give above average verses to Drum and Chance after he made Lil Boat? My answer to you is that there can be a big difference between being a good feature rapper and a musician that can put out a good full-length project. For example, I think that there have been plenty of good tracks that somebody like Big Sean has contributed to, but I'm not interested in any Big Sean full-length project. A similar thing is happening in a dramatic way with DaBaby right now. The man was featured on like 900 songs last year, and he sounded pretty great on a majority of them, but his full-length solo stuff doesn't really do it for me. Feature rappers have the ability to make a few good songs on their solo albums, don't get me wrong, but for the most part, they look better when we're just seeing them once every few months giving a verse or 2, as opposed to dropping 12 tracks of their own stuff. So in option 1, Lil Yachty might be a good feature rapper, but we got a fluke of a great project from him with Lil Boat. He got everybody all hyped up because his first big mixtape was very good, but then eventually we realized that he might not be great at making albums. But option 2, Lil Yachty losing his spark, might be more likely because it's been a few years since I've even enjoyed him as a feature rapper. This option is way more depressing because the concept of this bright-eyed, fun, entertaining kid being a special, one-of-a-kind artist and then just losing all of his talent is so sad. But here's the thing, when you've seen and heard from him within the past couple of years, I don't get the same energy that we used to. He used to be the king of the teens, the guy that celebrates individuality and having a good time, and now he kinda seems grouchy and uninspired. He's blending in with everybody else, and it really sucks. My latest video was about Kenny Beats and his YouTube series The Cave, where he brings in musicians, they have a good time, and make a short little song together. My big thesis statement of that video was the fact that Kenny is just doing it for the love of the music, he's doing it for the fun of it all, and I talked about how every episode is so warm and inviting. I literally used clips from every single episode except Lil Yachty's because his episode is so off-putting and uncomfortable, and it is the only episode in the entire series that is anything but happy and entertaining. How did he go from being the most carefree rapper to the only person that doesn't have a good time in the cave? Fame and money can obviously change people, but I don't know. I feel like this is a particularly drastic example of somebody switching up so quickly. If it's any consolation, I have mixed feelings on Yachty's new single, Oprah's Bank Account, featuring Drake and DaBaby. I actually think Yachty sounds pretty good here. He floats on this cool little beat, and the music video being so strange brings me back to 2016 a little bit. But I have a few negative things to say about the song that go along with the concept of this video. First off, Drake sounds like he belongs on this type of track, but his lyrics leave a lot to be desired, and then my main complaint with the song is DaBaby. On one hand, I am just sick of DaBaby features at this point, and I don't think that that's a hot take whatsoever. But call me crazy, I think the idea of Lil Yachty having a DaBaby feature in 2020 is something that really bums me out. Would the strange, eccentric 18-year-old kid that was doing whatever he wanted and making weird conceptual songs and coming up with the strangest music videos and rap, would that kid happily join in on the wave of doing what every single other rapper is doing by getting a DaBaby feature? I don't think that he would, and I guess that's why I'm asking the question of what happened to Lil Yachty. I'm hoping for the best for him going forward, but I'm not expecting much. Let me know what you think of Yachty in the comments. Was Lil Boat a fluke? Did Yachty lose his spark? Maybe a little bit of both, etc. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hey, thank you for watching that video. Let me know what you think down below. If you want to support the channel, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You can follow me on social media at RenshawHS. You can buy my merch, support my Patreon, and thank you again. I'll see you soon.